And guess what? We've started. It's happening. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Ian. It's very, very nice to see you, buddy.
Before we go any farther, I have to do something very important.
Okay.
There we go.
You've updated your background image to the wonderful image of Bernie Sanders at the inauguration.
I did.
What was it that you said about Bernie before we started recording?
I said, I'm not like a necessarily a Bernie fan. There are things about his politics that I don't care for. However, whenever I see him just interacting with the world around him, the general public, I understand him.
He is you. Like he is you. Yeah, yeah.
And this lovely picture right here. I mean, this is me at every meeting that I ever attend.
Right. When I saw that becoming a meme, I instantly thought of you, and you tweeted out, this is, me when Dave tells me we're going to talk about feelings on the show tonight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
It's accurate. So, obviously, this is now after the inauguration. So we did kind of like a before the inauguration check-in because things were tense. I don't know if you remember all the way back to 2 days ago.
Exactly.
But shit was real.
It was tense. It was tense.
It was very tense. And now things are only marginally unhealthy levels of tense.
Right.
Still tense.
Yeah, we've gone from not sleeping at all to catching to doing the sleep jerk,
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah. Dave was so committed to that analogy that he knocked his headphones off his own head.
I shook my headphones off. I do the sleep jerk quite a bit like that.
I definitely do.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. I wanna open with a quote from our good buddy Mark, because I think he had a great way of summing up where we are right now. Okay.
Yes.
He said, I feel like we finally won the boss battle. We only have 2% health left, but we won.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we moved it across the goal line. We're tattered. We're beat up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But we won. Biden is in office. Right? Shit is actually happening. Some executive orders have been issued to reverse all kinds of shitty stuff that Trump did. Right. And I'm happy to see some progress. But I'm still not you know me, right? You know me so well, Ian. How fast do I want to unfurl mission accomplished banners for any endeavor that you and I go into? Tell people about that. Yeah.
Mission accomplished. I would take a little bit of issue with Mark's analogy because I think that the actual thing that's happened is that you've beaten the boss, right? And you think it's the final boss, and the credits start to scroll, and you're like, "Oh, that was it." But the credits just say like, "Ha ha ha, just kidding."
Right. Or now you've unlocked hard mode.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's actually true because now the talisman of all of the boss bad stuff that we have to take care of is defeated, but now like the underlying stuff that created them in the first place we still have to deal with.
Right. Just because Bowser fell into lava doesn't mean we're still in a shitty castle.
Yes, I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Guess you never beat Super Mario Bros.
Long, slow drink of his beer from Ian. And we should say, so earlier this week we did a show where we did a check-in. Mm-hmm. Tense. We couldn't really talk about cars. This is the post check-in. We're going to be back to normal tomfoolery and, as Biden would put it, malarkey next week. Right?
Yes.
I mean, provided like insane shit doesn't happen, but that's the plan as of now, right?
And as a, whenever you post in a car forum or any sort of public internet space that's supposed to be about cars, and you're posting something that's not about cars, you always have pick for attention. I brought one of those. So let's just do that right away, and then we can talk more about
Okay. Okay. All
the
right.
inauguration and stuff. So I was walking today, and I just saw something that like warmed my heart in a very similar way as the events of this week did.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a Gulf of Barth?
It was not, but
It
it was
was?
nearly. It was a very pretty Alfa Romeo Spider.
Look at this in red, first of all. Yeah.
It was so clean. The interior was gorgeous.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. Look at the ground effects kit. Look at the body kit on that thing.
It's the Quadrifoglio.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know that they did a Quadrifoglio.
Yeah.
That. Yeah,
so
I don't know much about the Spider.
You can see the badge on the fender right there.
Oh, look at that. God, how about that font? That font's doing some heavy lifting, and it is working for me. Like
look at the trim. Look at the trim.
Look how black and dark and perfect it looks.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, and the chrome trim around the window.
Yeah.
Like, it is so clean looking.
Wow. The soft top looks like it's in great shape. Yeah, this stuff just takes a beating, this chrome. Look at that. Look how clean it is.
Yeah.
Ian, that's beautiful.
Yeah, just parked in my neighborhood. And I felt it was like a good harbinger.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. Also, how much do you love just the Denver car potpourri, right? The Colorado car potpourri. You have like a shitty Acadia behind it or a Chevy, whatever it is, right? You've got this. You've got a crazy Civic, on the other side of the street, and then like a Dodge Ram truck. Like like these are the 4 cars in this picture. This is great.
You always see crazy stuff street parked.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's fantastic. That's good, man. Yes, it is a good omen, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So we texted each other on Inauguration Day. Inauguration Day. Am I saying it right? Okay.
Sure.
And and I'm sure you did with some other folks as well. Some check-ins, right? And I'm very thankful to see COVID getting treated like a real thing, like plans coming together, like all of this stuff. Like I'm very, very thankful to see actual work being done. And that comedian Dan Sheehan tweeted something and said, "What if Biden fired off like 50 tweets right now?" And then he did a reply to his own tweet and said, "Hey America, what's your favorite yogurt?" Right? Right? So like how crazy was it to see Biden sign executive orders with a normal pen and not a giant marker and not hold them up for the camera to see, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the thing is, like, he does have, we are going to see him do some silly shit.
He's Joe Biden. He's going to say weird stuff. Yeah.
Yes. But, he's an actual human. Jenny and I were talking about this earlier, about how of all like the little details that we have heard over the years about Trump, we've never heard one that was like even just humanizing, but basically like you've never heard an anecdote that seemed genuine, that was like, he lifted me up when I was down, sort of thing.
Right.
Or he showed kindness to someone.
Right. Oh, yeah. Or just something like, say, normal, like, because like, take for example, like his enthusiasm for Diet Coke, right? Because
this is what prompted this conversation. Yes.
Okay. Because like, it would be funny if like every morning Trump walked down somewhere, got a Diet Coke, and like, like if he had some kind of like routine or ritual around it. No, he had a fucking button on his desk that he pushed for someone to bring him a Diet Coke. So not even
Right.
like the most basic of basic beverages was a thing he did normally or interacted with normally.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. It's so crazy to be in the public eye for 40 years.
Yeah.
I mean, probably longer than that. I mean, like he was basically in the public eye for nearly as long as Joe Biden has been.
You know what? You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
And zero anecdotes about him being like a nice or normal even person.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. And then like I think that Biden is overwhelmed with empathy, because I've heard a lot of people talk about like when folks would visit the White House during the Obama administration, and he would catch people in the hall and talk to them and listen to their stories. And like all of these folks, like the Pod Save America folks that, you know, worked in the Obama White House, just kept talking about how like crazy empathetic and how he truly listened to people, right? Like he actually has like normal and exemplary human capacities when it comes to listening and being empathetic, like putting himself in someone else's shoes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't catch any of what you just said, and I don't identify with any of it.
Did it just sound like Charlie Brown's teacher for a while? Yeah.
And then it seems like it's my turn to talk again. So
because the trombone stopped. The ginger trombone is noising again.
No, you're right. I mean, like it's just nice. The human part of it is just nice, and it's also, you know, he wasn't my first choice out of the Democratic field.
Me neither. Yeah.
Or even like in my top 3, but now, especially now that we know the full extent of COVID, like him having that capacity, I think, is actually more important than some of the other stuff that I was more concerned about a year ago.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think that, like, you know, this is, I'm thankful that he is where he is at this time. Personally, I would prefer Elizabeth Warren, because she'd probably be like mainlining espresso and just fucking I would be concerned for her little hummingbird heart, right? Because she would work
executive orders. Come on.
I know, right? Yeah, right. I love Elizabeth Warren. She is my political idol. She's amazing. So yeah. Have you heard her speak live?
I haven't.
Okay, it was awesome. I went to the thing in Denver where she did a campaign speech. It was awesome. It was great. Yeah, like, but yeah. Anyway, like emotion, normalcy, like a human, right? It was weird to not be gaslit for like, you know, for like 2 days, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other thing is that we haven't heard from Trump for
right.
like 48 hours now.
I know.
Which is really weird.
Yeah, it is. It is weird. And so like it is like when we talked earlier, like it was I said that like I kind of felt this way before Y2K, right?
Yeah.
And I think the feeling is similar after post Y2K, because everything was normal after Y2K. Right. Mm-hmm. But it's not like it was insane before. Right. There was just a tension before and then a normalcy afterwards. Right.
Right.
You know,
I tweeted an analogy today about like how I was feeling that I think any parent would be able to identify with, which is
I read this to Kelly. Yes. Yeah.
I feel like the country has a new babysitter that we're trying out for the first time. And like, I'm thrilled to finally be out of the house and making sure and not having to make sure that the country's not sticking a fork into the outlet or anything. But at the same time, I'm definitely checking my phone every like 5 minutes to see if they've texted.
Right.
And interrupting, you know, my first real conversation with my wife in months to be like, now, do we think the kids are asleep yet?
Right. Yeah. No, that's a
trepidation.
Yes, exactly. Cautious optimism, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. Right. It's, yeah, I don't know. I feel a sense of relief. Also, I have to tell you, I really enjoyed watching the QAnon folks melt down in real time as the inauguration kept going on.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know this or not, but a very, very popular QAnon theory was that Trump was going to declare martial law, and there were going to be these massive tribunals that were going to be broadcast all across, all forms of media, right?
Right.
And that it was going to be this crazy tribunal, and the real stuff was coming out, right? Like, just you wait, the storm's coming, right? And as someone who has like been entertained by conspiracy theories like since I was like, 15, 16, like I've always like found them fascinating, right? The
Yeah.
QAnon stuff was fascinating, but also insanely destructive, and it's ruined people's lives, right? Uh, Watching reality hit them like a truck was kind of awesome for me. I
Yeah.
actually
I
enjoyed it
I
to an
don't think.
extent. To an extent.
Yeah. No. There's definitely you know, some enjoyment to be had out of that, but I don't think that we're done with it either. Like
No,
I
no,
think
no. That's the thing.
it's gonna shrink,
Yep.
but it's gonna reinvent
Right.
to
Exactly.
be something else, and to oh well, it wasn't really Trump and blah blah
Right.
blah.
Right. Because I think ultimately what something like that fills for somebody is a structure that they need, right? It's allowing them to put things that they don't quite understand or know where to classify. It's allowing them to put things into a structure that also confirms the way that they feel, whether it's racist, xenophobic, like, or they hate Joe Biden or they hate liberals, like whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like to think that like they like are running pedophilia rings out of pizza parlors and like it's all of these feelings and structure that they want to snap things into and validate the way that they feel, right?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that. Glad you framed it that way, because that kind of brings me to something that I've been thinking about a lot, which is like where we go kind of from here,
Yeah.
and like how we got into this position in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's been all this like fascination around, and I'm going to come back to the QAnon thing, but like there's been all this fascination around like the people who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump, right? Like
Yeah, absolutely. Obama Trump voters are wow. Yeah.
and I've been kind of turning over in my head for a long time now this sort of like unifying theory around that, because there's been a lot of debate, especially among Democrats, about whether that's around identity politics, like a backlash to identity politics, um, or if it's economic anxiety. Remember that was a
Right.
big thing,
Yeah, for sure.
right? And those are there are legitimate arguments on both sides, and I think both and neither are correct. And what kind of a few things kind of like snap this into place for me. So I listen to every once in a while. I listen to Chris Hayes's podcast,
Okay. I haven't heard
and
it.
it's pretty good.
Okay.
He had someone on a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about why polling was so bad.
Okay. Okay.
And they were talking about how basically the people who will respond to polls skew super heavily, left or Democratic.
Okay.
Because and they think, and the theory that they were kind of discussing was that there's just like a group of like polls are almost now testing for this like personality trait of not being able to trust others.
Okay. Okay.
And I think that's close to being right, but I don't think it's quite right. And I think what it is the we've gone from like big government versus small government sort of continuum to the world is zero sum versus a rising tide lifts all boats, right? Like zero
Okay.
sum, or you could almost say like individualism versus collectivism too, right?
Right.
But people who see the world as zero sum, and people who don't. And I think that it sort of unifies the like economic anxiety and identity politics piece, because if you think about, I know for me, when I have conversations with white folks who are Trump supporters or whatever about Black Lives Matter or anything like that, they hear the phrase Black Lives Matter and they make the leap to, well, then someone else's life doesn't matter.
Right. Exactly. Right. So that life is more important than mine, or mine is somehow reduced as a white person. Right.
Right. And it never occurred to me when I first heard that that's what that meant. And I think for most people who support that thought would have never crossed their mind.
Right.
Had someone else not said it.
Right.
And I think the same is true for how they see economics, right? Like if someone else is doing well, that means that someone else is doing poorly.
Right. Zero sum. Right.
It's always zero sum, right?
It evens out. Right.
Right. And Trump talked very specifically to both of those things.
Yep.
And I think it also ties into things like, social programs and the role of government, right? Because if they see the government budgets as the same way, whereas someone who's like rising tide, when they say defund the police,
right?
Yes, at a small level that is zero sum because you're taking money from one program, policing, and putting it in something else like mental health or something like that.
Right.
But the effects of that are additive, right? So for every dollar you spend on prevention, you're saving multiple dollars down the road.
Right.
And people on the zero sum side don't care to do that calculation or whatever.
Right. They kind of stop at seeing something being taken away from them. Right.
And I think that there is, that explains some of the horseshoe effect that people talk about too, of people who are.
Oh, I haven't heard that term.
So basically it means that like, if you go far enough on either end of the political spectrum, you end up meeting again.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So, basically like black bloc, sort of like anti-globalist left people.
Yes.
And far right people sort of have a lot in common and tactics and everything else.
Right.
And that is that. And I think that they're really at the same end of the zero sum end of the spectrum.
Okay. Yeah.
The answer to that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that QAnon represents like the super far end of that.
Right.
So as you go farther down that side of the spectrum, you get like a really rigid worldview.
Yes.
That we talked about a few weeks ago, where if you knock one leg out and then you're done, and the whole thing crumbles.
Right. That rigidity being associated with an underlying fragility, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Right. And I think, there's a lot of reasons that we've realigned this way, but I think, obviously we talked a lot about how the right's responsibility for that already, but I think for the Democrats' part, I think that they've done a really terrible job of kind of not even like, because I think that we talk too much about shared responsibility to each other.
Okay.
Which sort of like relies on people's altruism.
Right.
Like,
right.
I need to help.
Yes.
This person. And that just doesn't work. And I think.
Well, it doesn't work for everyone. Right.
Right. And but it doesn't work as political messaging.
Right. Correct.
In a broad way.
Right.
And I think what would work better is just convincing people that, it's bad for you.
Right.
If the grocery store clerk gets sick.
See, there you go. Right. But, I think that one of the things around the Affordable Care Act, like Obamacare, right? One of the largest efforts of that act, of the Affordable Care Act, was making people become insured, because the more uninsured people are, the more expensive it is for everyone. Right. Like, like treating uninsured folks can get really bad really quick. Right. And having an insurance mandate, which was one of the most like toxic parts of that plan when it came to these zero sum folks. Right. Like that like the messaging of getting them to understand why them having health care benefited themselves and everyone else, right?
Yeah, I had huge arguments at around that time with coworkers
Okay.
who were, very zero sum thinkers,
Right.
and they were like, "Well, I shouldn't have to pay
Right.
for other people's healthcare," and it's like you already
You
do,
already do. You're already paying way more than you should be.
right?
Right.
And it was just like, do you think that cost just like disappears into
Right.
the?
Right. Or or heaven forbid they be one of those folks that does not sign up for any kind of health care and then use the ED and urgent cares as their doctor, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
and that's what happens, and that's yeah. Anyway,
Right. Right.
I don't want to retread an argument from 2009, but
No, but I think that what you say about individuals that receive information and then their first reaction is to see what is taken from them, right? To kind of frame it in that lens is a really important way to it's a really important thing that we need to understand about a significant portion of the population, right?
yeah. Well, and
And
it doesn't even have to. I don't even think it has to be necessarily explicitly selfish like that either. It can even be a group of people that
right,
belong to or something like that. But yes, they see the world as 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 transactions, right?
right,
It's just
right.
everything is transactional.
And I feel that a lot of the QAnon stuff was that now it's time to pay, right? Folks were getting so invested in it because they wanted to see people pay for the things that they have seen like taken away from them for so long, right?
Right,
And I think
right,
that
right. Yeah, that's just yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, that impending like judgment day or tribunal or things like that was something they were looking forward to, right? This reckoning as like as justice being served, right? And it turns out like that when you prey on people's fear and tell them that those kinds of things have been taken away from them or somebody has wronged them or people are doing evil things and they deserve to go to prison, right? No matter how crazy those things are, right? They're going to be so focused on justice being served for that, right? That they'll make some crazy leaps, you know?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and so that's why I think when people talk about like what caused it, I think to say it's only racism, it's only
Right, right,
economics, it's only sexism, it's only whatever.
right.
All of those things are valid because they are what you're talking about. They're all grievances, and Trump
Yes.
was just you know, um, it's just a symbol of grievance because that's all
Yes.
he that's all he has.
Right,
to
right. Loved
anybody.
playing the victim, right? You know, everyone's out to get him. The media lies, right? You know, it's this weird dichotomy where he loves to brag about how everyone loves him and also everyone is out to get him, right?
Mhm.
And like, yeah, this like insane narcissistic like polarity, right? That somebody like that exists in, right?
Yeah.
And of course, like as anybody who has had a narcissist in their life or has been in a relationship with one or, like has, somebody close to them or something like that, that has these narcissistic tendencies, we all know that the worst time is when reality hits them, right? When they can no longer maintain their vignette that they've been showing you or they've been showing someone else. And when those things collide with the vignette that like Ian sees versus the vignette that someone else sees, right? That is the absolute worst time. And the person can be very, very destructive and abusive if they're prone to those kinds of things, right? And
Yeah.
so as the final days of the presidency were winding down, that kind of stuff was coming to a head, and folks that were following like the QAnon stuff were making crazier and crazier and crazier leaps because these things were colliding, right? Reality was coming in. right? And people are still in denial, about like the events that happened and stuff like that. And they're always going to be. There's people that that like now are like, well, like now my family was right, I was wrong, and now I look like an idiot, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful that we don't have somebody at a presidential level, right? That folks like that will want to hop on the coattails of and fucking ride that, like, that violent, narcissistic victimhood train because those things are just things that are then acted out on others, right? And because there's this perceived sense that justice needs to happen. But first of all, like, it doesn't. And second of all, life isn't fucking fair, man. Like, you're not going to get justice for a lot of the things that you think in your life are wrong, right? You're just not. And no one wants to accept that. But you're just not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I find saddest about it and most like perplexing as far as like where we go from here is that that group of people did have legitimate grievances. There are things for which that they probably do deserve some justice, especially on the economic front, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what's so maddening about it is that the same people who kind of pulled them farther into that zero-sum way of thinking are the people perpetrating those things on them. Right?
Exactly.
The Republican Party doing most of that sort of stuff.
The escalating tax rates of the middle class of Trump's tax plan, like not understanding that like over the next 7 or 8 years, like taxes were going to go up for the middle class as part of his tax plan, right? Mm-hmm. Like lower income and middle taxes were going to rise, right? Like that kind of stuff, like that happened, like that happened from daddy. Daddy did that, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even just basic shit like making sure that 500,000 people don't die of a disease.
Exactly. Thank you.
You know, like that's a pretty clear example of a reason to be mad at your government.
Right. Right. And an example that the people in power don't give two shits about you.
Right. But it's such a bigger quagmire that it's a lot easier to be mad at a neighborhood pizza joint in DC.
Right. Exactly. Right. And walk in there with a goddamn gun and demand to see the freezer. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's been some crazy shit that's happened, man. Right. And isn't it weird? Just like, okay. All right. So you wake up, right, in the morning. Like, let's say you wake up before the kids wake up, right? You're turning into an old man, as am I. You got to pee, right? Okay. You're sitting on the toilet because it's morning time and you're sitting, and I personally always sit, right? And your thumb is hovering over like the CNN bookmark, right? Or the Twitter icon, right? That moment where you haven't hit the thing yet, right? That feeling that you have while your thumb is there and you're about to find out what shitty thing or to what degree a shitty thing happened, right? Like you don't know, but you just know that there's nothing fun on the end of that click, right? There's nothing really to be too happy about, right? But you're hovering and you're going to click it, right? You're going to click it. So now, right, we're hovering and that feeling is a little bit different, right? I breathe differently during those moments. I'm not saying it's going to be good. I'm just saying it's different, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel different yet for me. Like I feel like I'm still on orange or whatever color.
I do too. Right? Yeah. Right. It like we've moved down like one DEFCON, right? But still, like we have been living in that for so long, right? Mm-hmm. That it's just hard to just and it's justified that we don't just go, right? Or fucking mission accomplished banner, right? That's no,
Right.
right? When I'm not doing that, then shit's been bad for a while.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I mean, again, like 4,000 people died yesterday.
Jesus
Like
Christ.
it's
Right.
it's still
Right.
it's still really bad. We have all of best case is we have all the problems we did in 2016.
Right.
Plus a pandemic.
Right. Exactly.
There's been almost nothing done to control. So,
right.
I mean, did you see the thing where they were like, the Biden team like found, got a hold finally of the Trump administration's vaccine rollout plan?
I did not see that.
Yeah. The news was that they finally received the plan because, they didn't participate in the transition thing. So they got it yesterday.
Right. When they opened the file cabinet and found it or whatever, right?
There isn't one.
Okay. Gotcha. Yes. I did hear that.
No plan for vaccine rollout.
Right. No plan. Right. Yeah.
Nope.
So it's just been left to individual states, individual hospitals, individual municipalities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Government by entropy.
Right.
I would say is a failed experiment.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, that is a good way of looking at it. Government by entropy. Right.
Yeah, it was purposefully not doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. This was the equivalent of acting like a shitty spouse so that person breaks up with you instead of you breaking up with them.
Right.
We had to vote him out.
To put it in very obvious automotive terms, it's just taking your hand off the wheel.
You're exactly right.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and guess what? You're not in a Tesla. You're in a 1996 Mercury Grand Marquis.
Yeah, you're in a 1776 Toyota Tercel.
Right. Yeah, so some damage is gonna happen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and you better hope those fucking guardrails hold up, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. No, we've stretched that analogy as far as it can go. I appreciate
it. Well, my wife and I just kind of keep looking at each other and just saying like, it could be so much worse, right?
Yeah.
That's an important thing to remember. And things are, like you said, things are awful. The pandemic is out of control. It seems like folks have just fucking given up out there. Like I went by a coffee shop today. I didn't go in. I was getting some food, the grab and go takeout stuff, right? And a coffee shop was just full of people and no one was wearing masks.
Like inside?
Inside, Ian. Inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, it's people are giving up on that. We still have several ghouls in power.
Yes. Yeah.
In DC, like there's a lot.
Yeah, Ted Cruz still exists.
That fucking guy.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I have to say there's a few things I love, right? Let's talk about some stuff we love. I love that a vaccine plan is happening, right? Mm-hmm. I love that that's happening. I love that all the motherfuckers that raided the Capitol are getting arrested. And Trump's not president anymore, so we can't fucking pardon him, right? I love that. Love that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you got? What do you love?
I mean, we talked about, kind of the just having a human in charge again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's it. I think that's the end of the list.
This is like the very, very tiny, slight unpuckering of America's butthole. Like,
yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. No, we're all collectively finally letting out just a tiny squeaker.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and hope we don't wake up our spouse. Yeah, right.
Perfect.
Yeah, Bullfrog must have gotten in here. So, did you have any other shower thoughts? Did you have any other kind of like main points you wanted to hit?
No, that was it. Pretty much my grand theory of, that we don't have right versus left anymore. It's
Right.
the zero sum versus rising tide thing. And I think it's important to note too that like both political parties used to be in that sort of rising tide
Yes.
sort of side of that. There was
Right.
always people who weren't part of that conversation.
Right. Right.
But having a political party that is explicitly catered to only that sort of thinking is something that I think is new. I think the Republicans have been sliding that way for a long time,
Right.
but to be explicit about that is crazy.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So that's my big shower thought that I've been mulling over for the past few months.
No, I appreciate it because I think that you're absolutely providing some form to like feelings and stuff that I've had for sure, right? I've talked many times about like what Killer Mike said after Trump was elected and about how folks thought, things were being taken away from them, how it was, an atrocity that, now a gay person is seen the same as them or more protected in the eyes of the law, and they feel like that somebody that they believe is inferior is now, the government is telling them that they're equal or superior to them, stuff like that, right? Like all of those things that people have been taking as aggressions, against them. And that's been weaponized, right? That feeling has been weaponized. And
yeah, and I mean, I know I talk about this a lot, but I feel like it's not, we don't have to expect everybody to be a great person.
right.
That doesn't mean not being a great person or altruistic doesn't mean that you can't participate in politics, because you do, whether you want to or not.
Right.
And I think that, whether you make the case, we do this for civil rights too. Like Killer Mike was saying, we only make the case that it's the right thing to do
Right.
to give someone more rights, which is true.
Right.
However, it's also true that your life will get better, random person who isn't gay, if gay people can have a job or
and get married, right?
Yeah. Like it's better for you. And that also has the benefit of being true, right? Like it's, it's tangible. You can document and quantify that.
Right.
And I don't think we do a good job of that.
Absolutely. So like I went to a march in Washington D.C. to protest Trump a couple of years ago, right? And one thing that I noticed is that the left is bad at chants. Okay? The left, we can do stuff like lock him up and stuff like that. But when you get us in a group, we're not good at delivering a succinct, catchy chant, right?
Right.
And that's because the way that we look at something is more complicated. Like the answers to that, right? Like why does a homophobic person's life get better if a gay person has equal rights? That answer is not short.
It's true.
Right? So like to package that kind of stuff into messaging is a lot more of a difficult task, right? You're asking people to show their work when they just want to say 2 + 2 = 4, right?
Right.
So I understand that it's really hard to message that, but it's not impossible, right? It's not, right? The thing that upset me the most about Trump's campaign message, "Make America Great Again," was the word again, right? And because we know what that refers to. Everyone knows what that refers to, and they all look at it at differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people that support him look at that time when they were superior or they did not have those things being taken away from them, right? And say like gay people, black people, right? Like all of those oppressed folks see that again as a time, as people trying to get back to a time where they were, put back in their place, right?
Yeah, but the thing is though, he and the people in his campaign never defined
Exactly. They never defined it. That's the power of how succinct that message is, right? Because it split people into groups with "Make America Great Again" with 4 words, and especially that last one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it divided America with 4 words, right? Like, to try to message something that brings America together in 4 words is a taller order, right?
So I'm going to push back just a little bit because I don't think it divided. I think he did, for all his many myriad faults, he did bring new people in.
Yes.
To the process.
He brought the people that he wanted to bring in.
And what you're talking about is, are the same group of people that I was talking about, the zero-sum thinkers, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Because both mainstream political parties were talking about sort of collective things, even if the Republicans were not talking about it in those sorts of terms. They really were, like free trade is one of their hallmarks, and that's a very like rising tide lifts all boats sort of big picture thing, right?
Right.
That went out the window with Trump, right? Because he became very protectionist.
Yes.
So what you're talking about is actually he was picking up the flotsam and jetsam of the people who were left behind by both the other parties, right?
Right.
So, and you're right. Again, was amorphous enough that they could project whatever their particular grievance was onto it.
Yes.
And yeah, that's exactly right. Because he never said my campaign is about this.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But like that's all that group of people's not going away.
Right. And exactly. You're exactly right.
They're still very angry and legitimately underserved.
Right. Exactly. That's why the hesitation over hovering over the CNN bookmark or the Twitter icon still is there. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not like with the iPad on the toilet every morning, like, woo, click,
Let's see what Uncle Joe did today.
Right. Yeah. These people are still there, right? They still have this desire to be fulfilled the way that they were previously fulfilled by the Trump campaign, right? So the fear is somebody smarter than Trump comes in that is even better at weaponizing the kind of actions and polarization and motivations that people have, right?
Right.
That's the fear, right? I'm really afraid of Tom Cotton, right? I'm really afraid of folks like that, right? I'm really afraid of Josh Hawley, right? Yeah. As if Missouri wasn't a shitty enough state, right?
I was going to bug you about that, but I didn't want to twist the knife.
Dude, so like we had a little bit of time on one of my work meetings and somebody asked me about like Kansas City, right? Being from Kansas City, Missouri. They wanted to know some stuff about Kansas City and we did get on the topic of sports, right? And specifically the Chiefs, because you've seen it happen to me like 9, maybe like 7 or 8 times out of 10. When someone finds out I'm from Kansas City, they ask me if I'm a Chiefs fan, right?
Right.
That's just a thing that happens if you're from Kansas City, right? And it turns out that's because all Chiefs fans are fucking awful people and Kansas City is a hellhole. right? The entire state of Missouri is. Right. And so, yeah, but
The city is a lovely town.
Ian, Missouri went 66% to Trump. So fucking hell, right? So yes, they know how to smoke meats, but Oklahoma Joe's started on the Kansas side. All right, like Kansas is any better. And LC's barbecue is on the Kansas side. So there you go. But yeah, yes, they can smoke meats in Missouri. Also, they have a lot of racism. So yeah. But anyway, I went on like a long, like 20-minute rant about Kansas City. You remember what's the Deadspin guy, Drew, somebody that would always write those Williams Sonoma hater guides every year?
Drew Marjorie.
Yes, right? Yes. So he does those articles, Why Your Team Sucks 2020. Yes. Right? And he did one about the Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Oh.
Okay. So the comments section of that article was one of the most cathartic experiences I've ever had in my entire life, because everyone was shitting on Kansas City, including people in Kansas City. Like, remember that this is a stadium where they have a mixed race quarterback, right? Like Patrick Mahomes, right? Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, multiracial, right? Individual, right? During a moment of silence for Black Lives Matter at the beginning of a game, people in the stands fucking booed. Okay?
Oh, wow.
Right? They booed. Okay, so thank you, Kansas City, right? And so the comments section of this like article was just like they just both barrels just fucking hit them, man. It was so great and so cathartic. It was one of the best things that, as a Kansas Citian, there are two things that have truly done my city justice. Okay, that article and Anthony Bourdain's Kansas City episode of No Reservations.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, I have a lot of shit to get off my chest about Missouri, and it was like seeing how Missouri was reacting publicly, like or reacting politically, was such a hard thing for me to watch at a distance, right? Because it's so shitty and so backwoods and so awful, and that motherfucker Josh Hawley is an awful person, and so that's. All that is still there. It's still full of those people, right? And those kinds of things don't just go away or just like suddenly start thinking that maybe it's great if they pay a little bit more in taxes to send more kids to school with better materials, right?
Right.
So, sorry to get on a Kansas City rant.
No.
Yeah.
It's fine. I went on a long soapboxy rant too, so
no,
we both got it then.
That like Kansas City is like, and Missouri is like my Trump. Like that is like, it is a borders in which I can direct justified anger towards, right? Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but if you're in Missouri and you're listening to this, I love you. I know that there's good people in Missouri.
Right.
Yes. Anyway.
I've always had a good time in Kansas City, but I've only ever gone there for like concerts.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We used to have to leave Kansas City to go to Lawrence, Kansas to see stuff at the Bottleneck and stuff like that. So, that's where that's where I saw like an insane lineup of like, oh man, it was back in the day. I can't even remember who the opener was, but it was Downset and the Deftones. And so I've seen the Deftones in a club of 200 people.
Oh, wow. That must have been pretty cool.
It was really fucking cool. Yeah. Awesome. It was great. They're not even like one of my favorite bands, but they were so good. And it was so great. But anyway, yeah. So anyway. Dave,
I have heard that you have an FMK Cars to kind of close us out and kind of slide us back towards normalcy,
right? Right. Let's do it. I do have an FMK car. So next week, less political malarkey, right? Unless there's something warranted, but preview we Ian and I are IT guys, and we want to do a tech show. Tech
Yes.
show nerd scream.
Yes.
Yes,
We have things to talk about.
It's been on our talk abouts list for a while, right? So we wanted to do it for a while, but shit's happened, right? I believe we were going to do this episode, the tech show, like that was the show we were going to do when the insurrection happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, so in one news article that has caught my eye and has of a lot of other folks is something about how BMW will publicly shame out of warranty drivers with smart art billboards and license plate readers and stuff like that. And it was blown a little bit out of proportion. But as IT guys, Ian and I understand that the technology exists, that if somebody wanted to be a dick about that, they could, right? Mm-hmm. BMW could see every car that's driving by, and if it's a BMW and it's out of warranty, they could put up something on the billboard that says, hey, Tom, go to the BMW dealer, and you make this much money, buy a new BMW, right? All that stuff's there. Somebody could just do it, right?
Yeah.
So it is with that in mind that I have written this FMK Cars.
Okay. All right. This is the game that we play on the show after we go on several 20-minute rants about God knows what to remind ourselves that we still do a car show.
You're exactly right, Ian. This one, I channeled you and Mittens Bernie for the title. Okay? This title is Shame! I just stopped in to see what condition my condition. Oh God, there's no way the dealer will pay to fix that. Cars with questionable reliability, even when they were still under warranty, and a catch. Okay. So you're going to get a car. You're going to get a reliability thing, and a catch. All right.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
So here we go. All right. First up, Ian, there's your adorable Alpha. Okay. We're just going to keep that tab open. All right. Look at that. Okay. First up, Ian, I'm going to give you a 1996 BMW 750 IL. Okay. Yes. All right. Now, Ian, this is a V12 BMW.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if you know this or not, but this is before BMW developed the technology that would say, allow them to power the entire V12 with a single ECU.
Right. It had one for each bank.
Yep. One fuel pump for each bank.
Yep.
Right. It was like
a cars.
Yeah. It was like a RAID 1 of engine parts.
Yeah.
Right. Tech show. We're bringing up RAID levels. Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So with this, every time you drive by a BMW dealer or billboard, it updates that billboard to show a list of exactly every service item and repair that you've delayed or not done on your car yet. Right? So this includes small plastic fixes that you just put off because they're not important, they're not killing anybody.
Right.
Stuff like that. Okay? All right? That billboard stays up for a while. People see it. You got your picture.
My dumb face. Yeah. Okay.
Right? Okay.
Got it.
All right. So there's the first one. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Second one. I gotta save this one for last. Okay. All right. 2007. We're going to 2007. Range Rover Classic. I'll give you the HSE. So Range Rover
last. So one of the old, the newer.
Yep.
Old Range Rovers. Okay.
Yep, exactly. So I'm not nice enough to give you the Sport, but the Range Rover Classic, right?
Okay.
Like this guy right here. Yeah. Oh boy. We have to go through these pictures? Sure. Very opulent car, but we know that they have issues. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, Ian, let's just assume a post-COVID world for this. Okay. Once in every line that you get in, someone accuses you of cutting and you have to go back to the back of the line. That is the most insane crime in British eyes is someone cutting in line. Okay.
Q barging. Yes, is what it's called.
Yes, cutting the queue. Q what?
Q barging.
Queue barging. Okay. All right. You must also provide everyone in line with a cup of tea to apologize. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Lastly, Ian, I am going to give you a 2003 Maserati Quattroporte.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Every Italian restaurant you drive by, an adorable Italian grandmother comes out, spits on the ground, and tells you and anyone else in earshot that your sauce is a disgrace to you, your family, and St. Lawrence, the patron saint of cooking.
Oh my God. Okay. All right.
See why I saved that one for last?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the Quattroporte. I know it has a garbage transmission. I know it's super unreliable, but I want one so bad.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
I would say I want it more than I want a W12 Phaeton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of in a similar spot. It's the highest kind of like I want one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird car because I want one, and honestly, either of us could probably make it happen. Right.
Yeah. We could. And we know they're not great is also another facet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want one. I could probably make it happen, but I know how terrible it would be for me.
Right.
It's like you know what this is?
What's
this
that?
is a good, like self like mental health check.
Okay. All right. Talk me through that. Okay.
Have I bought an insanely used Maserati Quattroporte yet? No. Okay.
And then let's back down one. Have I looked at them on Craigslist?
Right.
Okay. So where am I in Dabda? Right.
Yeah. And it's good. Just a good self-assessment.
You're exactly right. This is the pain scale of masochism, right?
Yeah. The Quattroporte self-exam.
Yeah, there you go. Wait, I'm supposed to have 4?
I think we need to just have that. That's now canon on the show. The Quattroporte self-exam is like a...
Yes.
I know they exist, and I know it's attainable.
Yes.
And that's as far as it's gone. That's a good place to be.
Right. I feel like there's a Vizio that's going to happen while I'm on a boring call tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, okay. There's 3 options. Okay. I'm going to make the easy choice first. I'm crushing the Range Rover.
Okay.
Because there is nothing more anxiety inducing than being in someone's way for me. Like if I feel like I'm impeding other people, like I can't do it. So to be publicly accused of cutting the line randomly would just be devastating to me. I couldn't handle it.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. That's fatal blow, finishing move. That's how you get to Ian.
Car I'm least interested in, so that's helpful.
True.
I think that means I have to marry the BMW.
Right. Okay. I kind of felt like it would slide this way. Okay.
I also have a great deal of pride in my cooking, and I don't think I can handle like dozens of little old ladies who look like my grandmother spitting at me and telling me my sauce is a disgrace to my family.
Right.
I don't think I can do that. I'll do it for a day.
Right. But it's gonna wear on you. You're gonna have some baggage after that.
Yes, I will do it for a day and do some glorious V8 burnouts in the Maserati.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, I have to marry the BMW. What would you do?
Oh man, I have to kill the Range Rover as well. I really do. Like, I think you made the right choice, Ian. I do, because when your name is up on a billboard with the things that you haven't done to your BMW, you're not in anyone's way, right? Ian, we're putting our own faces up right now, right? It's something we kind of do every day.
Also, I just assume that everybody knows that I'm terrible at maintaining my cars.
Right.
Like, I just assume whenever anything breaks on my car, no matter how small it is, I'm like, well, everybody knows I'm a piece of shit now.
Ian, we wouldn't have a podcast if you had a Camry.
Right. That was an excellent but diabolical FMK cars. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I would end up the same way, same place you are, right? Even though I'm not Italian, even though I have no sauce pride, I would be mad if someone told me it was a disgrace to me and my family. Yeah. Yeah. Right?
I bought the jar at the store that said homemade.
Yeah, exactly. Or we could just extrapolate that to barbecue sauce, right? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, there we go.
Well, I think we did. I'm not going to call it a car show.
Right. Right. We were car adjacent.
Sure. But to symbolize our return back to normalcy, let me just, there we go.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Background back to my car in its native habitat.
On the Shell tow truck from Vale.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think to close out, let's just say we made it through whatever that was.
We did.
And we love you. And we will see you next week with a return to whatever the hell this is.